Hello everyone, welcome to today's session on validation rules. So today we'll be covering what are validation rules, where can we use validation rules, and then we will log into the org and dive into the demo. So starting with what are validation rules? So validation rules help you verify the data entered by the users that meets in a certain standard that improves the data quality of the system. So for example, if you are entering an email, right, and you are not entering a valid email, you can probably put a validation rule. And this is very vague example, but for example, you have some accounts, right, which are enterprise account, and any opportunity under those enterprise account, you want that the opportunity amount should be greater than 10,000, say, for example. In that case, you can put a validation rule that if the account associated to the opportunities of record type enterprise, then the opportunities amount should be greater than 10,000, otherwise it will throw an error, right? So these are few examples of validation rules which you can use. And validation rules can contain a formula or an expression that evaluates the data and the fields, and it returns true or false. If it is true, that means it is an error. If it is false, then it is not an error. Please remember, if it is true, then it is an error, right? So we get confused a lot of times while writing validation rules. Then validation rules can include errors to display to the user that this is an invalid data, please enter this kind of value. You can throw a proper error message there. So validation rules are very helpful to maintain the data quality in the system. Where can we use the validation rules? Again, validation rules are used to maintain the input and modify the records. So basically, whenever you're inputting any record into the system, or you're modifying an existing record, in that case you can use validation rules to verify your data. Then where the users may be prone to make mistakes or cutting corners, therein where you can apply some formatting, and you want certain data sets to be required, you want some fields based on some other fields to be required. In that case, you can use validation rules. Then an important point to remember is that the system modified records also follow the validation rule. So for example, you are writing a trigger or a flow when you are updating some records, it will again pass through the validation rule. So make sure that your integrations, imports, automations, and stuff like that are also following the validation rule parameters. In case you are loading the data which is really old or from other legacy system which is not that clean, and you want to bypass the validation rules, you can inactivate the validation rules while you upload the data. So these are a few tips from my side, and now I'll be logging into the devlog, and we'll dive into how to create validation rules and how to use them.
So I've logged into my Salesforce dev account. Let's go to opportunities to start with a small demo on validation rules. Okay. I'll show you the accounts first. Let's create a validation rule wherein any opportunity with the account of where the account is tagged and the record type of that particular account is enterprise, the amount cannot be less than 10,000. Okay. So let us go to the account object manager first, and then let's see accounts here. On accounts, we already created a couple of record types, that is SMB and enterprise, in our last session. So we'll use the same record types to add the validation rules on opportunities. Okay. Now moving on to the opportunity, let me go to the opportunities here. So you can select the account here. So this Kizzy Consulting, this is already an enterprise account. Let me show you. Let's go to the accounts. Let's go to Kizzy Consulting. Right. Let's go to details. I think it is not on the layout, but yeah, we can use this Salesforce Inspector extension in order to check the record type. So record type is enterprise, right? Now, moving back to the object manager. Let's go to the opportunities. Let's go to the validation rules right here. Let's click on new. We can give the name of the validation rule, for example, amount validation. Okay. You can give a description if you would like. I am putting a random description for now. Okay. Hit insert. So you can see, right, under opportunity, you can see all the opportunity fields here. And if you click on account, you can see the account record types and all the account fields. So you can select account record type, then we can select record type name. This is basically the name of the record type, right? And on the right side, you can see functions here. Now, validation rules offer a lot of functions. You can check out the descriptions here. And in case you want to read in detail, check out help on this function. It will give you the complete detail. Now let's try a couple of basic things here. So we have if condition. It is a normal if condition wherein you can give the logical operator, and you can define that what should be the condition. In our case, the condition is that if account record type and this developer name is equal to enterprise, right? Then you can give the condition which evaluates to true here. So how validation rules work are that the condition should evaluate to true in order to throw the error. Right, keep this in mind because we usually tend to reverse it, and we think that if it is false then only it will throw an error, but no, if it is true then only it will throw an error. So here we can go to insert, we can select the amount field. We want it to be greater than 10,000, right? In case of enterprise. So in order to condition to be true, in order to give the error, it will have to give the validation rule as if the accounts record type is enterprise and the amount is less than 10,000, then it should throw an error, else it is false, right? If the amount is not less than 10,000, it should give false. You can click on check syntax. It tells you any errors if you find, and here you can type the error message. So I'll say amount must be greater than 10,000 for enterprise accounts. Okay. Then we have two options, error location. So one is on the top of the page and the other one is on the field. So it is recommended if it is a single error message on a particular field, you should select the field where you want to throw the error. Let's hit save. There's also an active checkbox, inactive checkbox. Sorry, active checkbox. You can mark it as inactive in case you want to, disable the validation rules. And secondly, you can create as many validation rules as you want, and it evaluates all the validation rules in a go. It is not, it will evaluate the first validation rule and it will throw an error. It will evaluate all the validation rules and throw errors continuously, right? Okay, great. Now let's go to the opportunity. Let's try creating an opportunity. There are certain fields which are required on specific objects. For example, on opportunity, close date is required, opportunity name is required, and stage is required. Similarly, on contact last name is required. So these are some standard validations kind of thing we can say provided by Salesforce. So we can say this is what do you want to call it? We can call it filling station requirement. Okay. Let's put amount to be 10,000 in order to check if we're getting an error. Then we can add close date. So this close date is basically the opportunity close date, that is when are we targeting to close it or when it is closed, right? We can say stage as prospecting. Great. Rest of details are not required. Here you go. It did not throw an error, right? No worries. Let's go back to the validation rule. Let's see what's the issue. Okay. Amounts record type, account dot record type. Oh, I had a space here, so we can remove this space, right? Hit save. Now let's edit this validation rule. And by the way, yeah, validation rule work on edit as well as insert. So it is not only when you are creating a new record, then only the validation rules will work. It will also work in case it is an edit operation or an update operation. Let me hit save. You see it throws an error here. Amount must be greater than 10,000 for enterprise accounts, right? Now, if you make it 10,000, it saves. Right? Now let's go back and let's also see, if you make it as top of the page, what happens? Let's hit save here. Let's go back to the opportunity. Click on edit. Let's make the amount smaller. It gives you an error here rather than on that field. So in case you want to throw an error on a specific field, please use this on field and identify the field you want to throw an error on. That is very helpful for the end user to identify the field wherein he needs to enter the correct value. That is very really important. And also, I as I told you, right, you can create as many as validation rules as you want. So that is very beneficial. It gives you much more control over the quality of the data set, and validation rules are a great tool. Secondly, also validation rule not only work from the UI. In case you are using an API to store the data, or you're using any other backend Apex logic to create a record, it definitely fires the validation rule, and it throws you an error. So it does not matter if you're using a UI to create a record. Anything that is going inside the database has to pass through the validation rule. So please keep that in mind. It is not just UI wherein the validation rules will fire. That is a very important mechanism here. And secondly, if you are suppose you are loading a bunch of data set and you feel that that is probably old data set and that might hit validation rules which were created probably after the data was already created in our existing system or stuff like that, and you want to load the data into Salesforce, instead of deleting the validation rule, you can directly go here, hit edit, and mark it as inactive. Right? In this case, the validation rules won't fire. You can upload the data and reactivate the validation rules. So that is a a great tool here to be used. I think that is pretty much it from my side on validation rules. In case of any question, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn and Twitter handles. Thanks. See you again with the next set of series here. Thanks.